Well, folks, a little different setting today for Best Fridays in football. It could be Best Fridays in basketball. Urban Meyer in one of the most historic landmark places in all of Hoopville. Urban, where are you right there?
I'm in the Allen Fieldhouse here in Lawrence, Kansas, and
Wow.
Naismith and the legends. Bill Self has won a couple championships
Mhm.
here, so it's an incredible place.
Wow, Fog Allen, all that sort of stuff. They put the peach baskets up there. Man, what a history. And you're in Lawrence, Kansas to speak for, obviously, for football. And we have an abbreviated edition of the show due to technology, but let me get right to it. Let's start with Florida, Georgia. I'm just looking at the numbers again. We talked about this last week. Steve Spurrier, of course, made life miserable for everybody, going 11 out of 12 over Georgia. Phenomenal, phenomenal. One of the most dominant performances in any rivalry. Urban, you came along. You did add a little 5-1 in there. And by the way, Ron Zook went 2-1, so you guys were 18-3 against the greatest program in college football right now. Amazing. Think about that. That's just unheard of.
Yeah, if you study that rivalry, which obviously if you're the coach at Florida, you better study it. It's a game of streaks. Vince Dooley had a dominant run over the Gators, and when you hear Steve Spurrier talk about why this game meant so much to him is because Georgia actually knocked him out of the championship a couple of times. So it
Yeah.
became the red letter game, the rivalry game. And when I was at Florida, people talked how great this game is. It's miserable if you're the coach. I can only imagine what Coach Napier is. You say all the right things. It's a great game. It's a great rivalry. It's a great stadium. It's a neutral. But reality is you better win that damn game. And you got the legend Steve Spurrier hanging over the top of this thing. And ironically, Georgia, even back in the day, you could say they've had the best players. I mean, they've always had. It's great high school football there. Obviously, it's a great place. They recruit well, but you got to find a way to win that game.
Mhm. Yeah, I talked to Coach Spurrier earlier this week, wrote a column about the fact that I don't know if I've ever seen a more dominant performance in a rivalry at all than this. Now, you, of course, didn't do too shabby, 5-1. Most cases, most coaches would take that in a heartbeat. Uh, Describe a little bit about the intensity of this rivalry. We did this last week a little bit versus the rivalry you were in and lived in and came from Ohio State, Michigan, and grew up on. Very similar in that regard. Is there any comparison there? You, of course, should feel more about the Big Ten than I would because I grew up with the SEC. But talk about the comparison, that great rivalry as well.
Yeah, Florida. There's three rivals. There's Florida State, Tennessee, and then this one. Then I considered Miami one as well, even though you
Mm-hmm.
don't play each other, but it's
Mm-hmm.
in the same state. But this was the closest one to the Ohio State Wolverine rivalry. So
Mm-hmm.
the intensity's there, the mandate to win. The old Gators. I mean, I never ran into an old
Yeah,
Gator that didn't talk exactly
yeah.
about how'd you do against Georgia.
Beat those Bulldogs. Got to beat those Bulldogs. A lot of interesting games this weekend. Urban, you're in Kansas. Talk about the game you're covering for a big noon Saturday, and what some of the other games are this weekend. Besides, there are other games, although Florida fans don't think so this weekend.
Yeah, there's some huge games. We're at Oklahoma, Kansas. Big game. Lawrence, Kansas, like we said, is historically a basketball school, but this coach has done Lance Leipold's his name. He's done an excellent job here. Oklahoma, had a bad year last year, and then they beat Texas. They're in the running for a playoff spot. And then you got Utah and Oregon. Oregon on videotape. Just when I watched the video, it's hard for me not to say that Oregon and Texas, to me, have looked, and along with the Wolverines, but the Wolverines haven't played anybody. Oregon, Texas, and the Wolverines look the best on film right now.
Pressure on a coach. Nobody knows more about that than you. What we're seeing at USC right now, things not going well out there. Talk about that situation as much as you can. What's going on there? He's not been at practice a couple of days. Speculation. What do you hear?
Oh, I don't know much. Matt Leinart knows him. I think he's got some, it's just a cold or ammonia or something like that. I wasn't sure what exactly is going on. Obviously, there's high expectations at USC. That's one of the true blue bloods of college football. You got arguably the best player, a guy that had a chance. I don't think he does now to win back-to-back Heisman Trophy winner trophies. So a lot of pressure, a lot of high expectations. And I'll tell you, I've said it many times, that guy at Utah, Kyle Whittingham, finds a way to get it done. He's down to his third string quarterback. They go to USC, and in the last minute and 16 seconds, they find a way to win.
Wow. You were on record as saying, I read about it today, that at some point it might be, well, you can argue best or one of the best. Your comment was one of the best. Somebody wrote he was the best. But I'm going to tell you what, pound for pound, last 20 years, I mean, Kyle is right up there.
I think he's the best coach in college football. And someone, if they might lose a game, they're going to play a team that's probably got more talent. Not probably, they have more talent than them. But it's just year in, year out. He takes the 3 to 4 star athlete and turns them into 5-star players. He takes the 3 to 4 star athletes and turns them into 5-star teams. To me, that's the ultimate measure of a coach, is if you can win with less than what you're playing. And if you can do that, that's why I really don't think there's any doubt now. I always said he's one of the best. I think he's the best.
Talk about what you saw when you came to Utah and he was already there and you kept him. That was one of the best decisions you ever made. What was he like as you're a young coach, not yet a head coach?
Yeah, I made a comment, and I've told the story that people told me not to hire him. He interviewed for the same position I got, which would create natural, maybe egos involved, but what I saw was that when I met him and I did my research, is that they traditionally had the best defense in that conference. It used to be the Mountain West Conference. And I didn't realize this till I was done coaching, but I've always kept a D coordinator. I didn't realize that till someone told me that at Bowling Green, at Utah, at Florida, and Ohio State, I've always kept the defensive coaches because I'm an offensive coach. I want continuity, especially if they've been good on that side of the ball. And what I found is arguably the best assistant coach I've ever been around.
Wow.
Certainly one of them.
Got that award 1 year. You did the Plan to Win. I interviewed you about the book, and of course, you very, very much care about the Plan to Win. And I asked you the question, and I said to you, you said defense is the most important part of football. And I said, how do you reflect that? And you said, pay the defensive coaches the most money.
Yeah, there's two things. You pay the coaches our salary pool was always more money spent on defense and offense, and then also recruiting. You look at the players we had at Florida, the players we had at Ohio State. When we found a defensive end, a corner, we put a full court press on that cat. From the guys at Ohio State where you had Joey Bosa, Nick Bosa, Chase Young, to the great players we had at Brandon Spikes on defense, Joe Hayden, Janoris Jenkins, Major Wright. You better, Carlos Dunlap, you better get you some defensive players. And you want to win championships. That's why I'm so intrigued right now. Who are the top 4 teams in the country? This is the first time in recent memory, I can't tell you. Every time you say a team's a great team, they lose, or you just watch them on film and they're quite not the best. So there's as much parity as there's ever been in this game. And who wins a national title? I've never seen it this wide open.
Really is. And got a guy there in Tuscaloosa people are forgetting about. You know him pretty well. In the end, there's a possibility he'll be there, but Georgia's a team to beat. I don't know. Some people subscribe to the theory that to be the man, you got to beat the man, as they once said. And whether or not someone knocks off Georgia, I mean, Kirby Smart's right now on top of the world. You got to give up this guy. He's done a phenomenal job. Talking to your friend Coach Spurrier, he says, I have a high regard for Kirby, the way he coaches the game. He does it right. He's been successful. To do what he's done, people say, well, he's got all the players. Urban, it's not that easy when you got the players here, right? You got to do it.
Yeah, I never bought into the whole someone, I would argue with people. And, well, first of all, anyone who knows the game would say, you just get the best players. Is that right? How do you get the best players? You have to recruit the tail off them. What happens when you get those best players? You better coach them. You better develop them. I've been around. I've seen coaches and teams that recruit really good players, but they don't get any better. The one thing about Kirby Smart and his staff is that, yes, they recruit great players. But you know what? So do another dozen teams in the country. Their staff develops those players. And you take a guy like Stetson Bennett, who's won 2 national championships, you tell me he's the best quarterback in the country? He's not. Now he's the best quarterback in the country because he's got 2 championship rings. So yeah, I don't. When you hear someone say that, that, buddy, that's Will they just get the best players? No, they get great players and they coach them. That's why I respect them as well.
Like they're fall off the back of turnip trucks or something, something like that. Coach, last one. I hate to keep doing this, but these stories keep coming up and coming up. I take you at your word. I get asked all the time about you coaching. I keep saying no, 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 no. And yeah, there's these wild stories out there about you. I know you hear them. You don't come on. I saw one today where they're ready to back up the trucks in East Lansing and get you to come to East Lansing. I don't know. I guess it could be true. I can't see Shelley living in East Lansing. That's just me. Nonetheless, how many times do you must have heard hundreds of situations pop up. Your name is every opening. Get Urban, get Urban, get Urban. I say Urban's done. I think I'm right.
Yeah, you're very much right. That chapter has moved on. That chapter has been closed, and we are loving life. We're family's healthy and 4 grandkids, and I got the best job in the country at Fox Sports doing Big Noon Kickoff with guys I love, and our ratings are good. We're staying relevant in the game. So, yeah, buddy, I'm good.
Look at this picture. I see one happy dude right there, so that's what I like to see. Before you go, thank you. Sorry you had difficulty earlier. I got to get you to go back again one more time and talk about Florida, Georgia, and the get-even game you had when at the end Emmanuel Moody took the ball and you kept calling timeouts till there weren't any more, and you tried to call one you didn't have. To sit there and look at that scoreboard and see what happened, that was the ultimate feeling for you. What was that like to do that?
That was the most prepared team that I've witnessed in my coaching career with 2008 Florida, Georgia. I tell people the story that you go down 4 hours before the game and you have your pregame meal. And I walked in that everybody was standing up cheering, the coaches, the players. They were so ready to play that game. Obviously, the Georgia offense had 3 first-round draft picks. You had Stafford, Knowshon, and Green at the receiver spot. And from the first play to the last play, that was a dominant game. And I remember the SEC media days that day. I must have got asked 100 times, what's the payback plan for Georgia? And I was really worried. I challenged our players, our staff said, don't you do anything. Let me handle it. And I really didn't have a plan. And then at the end of the game, the disrespect that was shown to our players, families, coaches, Gator Nation about what happened. I just came to me when I saw Emmanuel run that ball, and I looked up at the clock and saw there's 30 seconds left, and we burned 2 timeouts. I actually tried to call a third timeout, but we didn't have a third timeout.
Yeah. That was an unbelievable moment for you. All right, Urban, it's great. I want to remind people that Best Fridays in Football come to you every week, and glad to have Urban again. Once again, appreciate your time. Let me just say, you got any hot picks for me, any upsets or anything this weekend you can give me on college football? What do you see out there as a possibility of an upset?
I think this Oklahoma-Kansas is really an intriguing game. This coach here and his staff, they've been together. He's won, I'm not sure people realize this, Lance Leipold's won 6 national titles at a small school in Wisconsin. And then he went and won at Buffalo. Think about that. It's not easy to win at the University of Buffalo. So I just admire this guy. I think Oklahoma has better talent, but it might be a little wet, a little cold, where strange things happen. So that's a game to watch. And then, that Oregon-Utah, that's a big game, man. And Utah's a hard place for Oregon to go play.
Mm-hmm. All right, Urban, I just say, if you got a good young coach out there who might be coaching at Bowling Green or at Duke, I hear there's some pretty good coaches come out of there once in a while. Guys named Spurrier and Meyer at those places.
Yeah, keep an eye on Duke. Duke's done a great job this year.
Urban Meyer, Best Fridays in Football. Thanks so much, Urban, and enjoy the basketball you're about to see. What a historic place. Shoot, I can see those peach baskets behind your head, Coach.
Have a good day, buddy.
Thanks you, Coach. Bye-bye.